Thank you. So we'll state that against everybody here. So the headquarters road bridge, the EID grant that we applied for, we did not get the approval to move forward in the grant process. So that is not an option going forward. We are going to continue with the investigation onto the temporary bridge support. And so we are still currently, did we get proposals yet, Terry?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got our proposals and
yes, we got proposals, and they're on your agenda for you to look at and approve if you choose to for the exploratory excavation.
I think we're gonna have to identify what they are.
yeah. All right, so we've got two here. We got McMillan proposal, which I believe.
That's Doug Baum.
Yep, which is Doug Bond, which is the engineer that we're utilizing to do the initial part of the investigation. And so this would be for test pit investigations are proposed. Well, I guess I'm not going to read this whole thing, but basically this is for the engineering and the assessment of the test pits that we will do with a separate contractor for the investigation determination if the soils and the ground on the sheep hole side of the bridge are able to support a temporary bridge structure, and also to investigate the backside of the pier on that side for the potential of a bridge rehab if we were to find funding at some point in the future. The cost of this is $14,320, which we will be covered with the donation that we were given for doing this investigation. Is that correct, Terry? So I guess I will make a motion to authorize us to tell McMullen to proceed with this proposal.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The second part of this is the actual contractor to do the excavating. We have received a quote from Weaver and Son Excavating, and this will be to mobilize the equipment, excavate the test pits that will be evaluated by the engineer, and the spoils will be loaded and moved over here to the township site, and then they will utilize engineered backfill material to backfill the holes that they create to make sure that there's no undue subsidence. That quote is, our estimate is $21,510. I will make a motion to approve this contract.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And for clarification, this too is going to be covered by
Correct.
donation from Wood Tiger.
Yep, the entirety of the investigation through the contractor and through the engineering is being covered through the donation that we received for doing that purpose. Terry, are we still looking at a May timeframe?
Yes, I believe that's
May
May
22nd.
22nd.
Okay.
Somewhat weather dependent.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll have some information we might not have information by the next meeting in June because it will take some time for the engineer to evaluate. But we will be on our way to getting some information on what we could do moving forward. Question? Yeah, Chris. All right, moving on. We have our 2022 real estate tax waiver of penalty form and procedure. We discussed this at the last meeting about producing a process so people could come into the township to request relief from penalties that they were assessed if they paid their taxes, but it doesn't show up that they paid their taxes because we had some issues with the tax collector last year. Steve, I guess if you want to go. Or,
Well, actually, it's Eleanor's form.
Okay.
And our forms look similar, but I like the layout of your form better, to be blunt. But in any event, one of the concerns that the town, one of the concerns that the township had was the getting the paperwork done, because the county won't approve a waiver of the penalty unless the township approves it. And we would the township was looking for a way to streamline the process, and a waiver application, an affidavit has been prepared so that anybody who believes that they were improperly assessed a penalty should get a copy of the form here at the township, fill it out, submit it, bring it back to the township. The township, upon reviewing your information, believes that you are entitled to a waiver, will then send that to the county for processing. So there's a very straightforward form for each, for anybody who feels that they've been victimized and unfairly penalized.
So Terry, we'll have those forms available coming tomorrow for residents to come in and fill out.
I think we have just a teeny bit of fine tuning once you approved them. So probably by the end of the week.
Okay. All right. Do we, I guess, Steve, do we need to make a motion for, I mean, we sort of talked about this last meeting.
I
don't necessarily know if there's-
because it's really a question.
A
All you're doing
procedural
is
question.
You've got a form. You're presenting a form to just make it easier.
So I guess assume come Monday, you can come in here, apply for that relief, and we will then forward it on to the county. Our grant subcommittee, do you have something else there?
I do want to say in discussions with the county, that it will still be finally up to them, even if you approve it. And that, there's probably some properties that are continually for a quarter of a century on the delinquent tax, and the county will not.
Yes, so again, the
So this
ability
is
to,
for, and honestly, like you tried to pay them on time.
yeah, so if you just did not pay your taxes on time, that does not count and will not suffice as a reason. If you submitted a check to the tax collector and they never cashed it and sent it into the county or cashed it late, that would be a reason for, granting relief from the penalties. So
Thank you.
just as a clarification.
Any paperwork that.
Yeah.
Any paperwork, let's see, any paperwork that anyone has to support their position that they timely paid the taxes, but nonetheless received a penalty because they weren't processed properly or in a timely fashion. Any paperwork that you have that can support that will be very helpful in getting a favorable result in having your penalty waived.
All right, moving on to grant subcommittee. We had spoke last meeting about potentially reaching out to all of our committees currently to see if we had any interest in people joining a grant subcommittee, and maybe getting some outside people as well to potentially join, depending on what our who wanted to join from our current committees. So
I've reached out to the committee chair people to discuss this with their committees. I've heard back from approximately half. In all fairness, not all the committees have met since, but I have heard back, and I'm getting interest, but I don't have the full list for you yet.
Okay, I guess, do we want to wait till next meeting to, once we have a list of committee members to,
By then, other committees. probably
I would
met,
expect that we would have
It's
our,
a month away, so
Yep.
we should meet by then.
okay, so we will put that on the agenda for the next meeting to continue that discussion. On to the next, the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission Regional Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Program Grant Opportunity. This was something that came about really quickly late the last meeting, and we put our interest in. It wasn't anything to committing to anything, but I guess Terry, you were on, and maybe Eleanor, you were on the call with that gave a little bit more information about that.
So, Eleanor, Joan, and I all attended the Zoom meeting, and it was very interesting. It is a pilot program, however, and at this time, I have to find my list at this, oh, thank you. It's a pilot program, and it's being run by Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. And the grant is to add electric vehicle fueling stations in southeastern PA and more areas. There were a few issues where it didn't really suit us, although the education part of it was still good. There's a cost share to the grant, which we were not aware of, and it's 20%. And most of it is really geared towards areas that have PICO at this time, because Philadelphia Electric is actually helping with this. I did ask if Med Ed would be involved. They really couldn't answer that question right now. So the pedestals would cost from 25 to 35 for each port, and we need to have four ports. They'd actually like it in, an area that is, what's the word I want to use? Sort of, an area that is open more often, so that there's more around rather than a remote area. And it also needs to be networked on a national map so that people can find the fueling stations. They actually said they needed a letter of intent by May 1st, agreeing to the cost share. However, as well as the 20%, as this is a pilot program, they did mention that there could be cost overruns that the townships that want to participate should budget for. So, I guess what I'm looking for is whether, you want to, have me send a letter of intent to agree to cost sharing and going further with this grant application or not.
Did they have any information with regards to the funding and other than the initial installation and the cost sharing related to that? Was the 20% cost sharing in relation to this the chargers? Are the chargers an install, and did it have any maintenance component to it, or was there not that much detail?
There wasn't that much detail, and a lot of the questions I tried to pin down, they were new at this as well, and they couldn't answer them completely. The cost estimates that I gave you, 25,000 to 35,000 per pedestal. That doesn't include making a completely flat ADA parking area, the conduit to run the electric. Do I have the kilowatts on my list that I sent you? Yes. You'd need to supply 240 volts, 25 amps, and 4 vehicles must be able to charge at the same time. And again, it needs to be networked so that you're on a national map, like you can fuel up here. So, it also said they were not including the super fast chargers. You all probably know what that is better than I do.
Yeah.
So I think they were more looking for, an area where you go fuel up your vehicle and you can read a book or whatever, but I don't know. If you would like me to go further with this, I need a letter of intent, but that's also agreeing to cost share in the 20% plus overruns.
This program was just for municipalities as well, has nothing to do with private entities at all.
I didn't think it was for anything but municipalities in southeastern PA.
I mean, based on that information, I'm not in favor of moving forward.
Neither am I.
Neither am I.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sewage management amendment. This was a provision that the reserved sewage area is not required when a failed system is replaced with a standard on-lot system. And we had discussed this back when the sewer ordinance was revised a year or two ago, and somehow in the final revision, it got overlooked. And I believe Carl brought this up to us recently. So this, in my understanding, is the revision that includes that revision. We want to send this to the Planning Commission for review and check, and then we'll have to send it to Bucks County Planning Commission as well.
No,
Okay.
it's not a zoning board.
Okay.
You can send it to the planning commission if you like, but it doesn't go to the Bucks County Planning Commission because it's not an ordinance or it's not a zoning ordinance or subdivision or land development.
Okay.
I might also add that in addition to providing that a reserved sewage area is not required whenever a failed sewage system is replaced, it also, Steve Balla felt that there was a confusion between replacement area and replacement. Steve Balla felt that there was confusion between the way the ordinance referred to replacement areas and replacement systems. So the language of replacement areas was changed to reserve sewage areas to better distinguish between the two. So this does two things. It provides that the reserve area will not be required when a failed system is replaced. And number two, it clarifies reserve sewage areas versus reserve sewage or replacement sewage systems.
Steve, if I understand you correctly, you said only ordinances go to the Bucks County Planning Commission?
Only zoning or subdivision ordinances,
Okay.
this one's neither.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Well, I would say we send it to the PC just for.
Correct, absolutely, I agree.
Make a motion, to send this to PC for review.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sure, Carl.
I'm Carl Russart, 33 Center Road and 120 Commission. I noticed on the agenda that it talks about standard on-lot systems. And I don't know where that came from. The proposal from the Planning Commission did not specify standard. I don't believe standard is identified in our septic ordinance.
Well, in the ordinance amendment that you will be reviewing, the sentence says a soil-based reserve sewage area shall not be required whenever a failed sewage system is replaced with an on-lot disposal system. Because before it said they did have to.
Correct, but we're not limiting it to standard,
No.
correct?
That's correct.
No.
So
That-
this is not accurate.
Yeah, it's just for purpose of.
That's fine.
The agenda.
That's fine,
Yeah.
because I didn't want to limit it to that. I
Yep.
felt that the whole essence of this was to try to remedy
Yeah,
a
a broken,
failing system.
a broken system in. Yeah,
Exactly.
in its entirety. But yeah, you could double check it next meeting.
Great, thank you.
On to codification. All right, so we need to do an authorization to send the Bucks to the Bucks County Planning Commission. For our codification. I will make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can-
Aye.
Aye.
Did you correct the deer fence thing?
They have not corrected the deer fence thing yet.
Mike?
The planning commission wanted to look at amending the deer fence thing to correct it. Would you like me to, can they make the motion to have the planning commission, since most of them are here anyway? Was
What
it
you
8 to
send
10
it,
or
the problem
7
is
feet,
We want to send it to the planning commission once,
right?
the Bucks County. Planning
Right.
Commission. So the revision to the fence, the deer fence needs to be made before you send it off, in my opinion. Otherwise, you're going to codify the ordinance, and then within a month, you're going to amend the codified ordinance.
But
which
then with
doesn't make
our
any
way
sense.
that we're going to take our codification and digitize it within the end of the year, we'll be able to update it all anyways.
Right,
Okay,
yeah,
So,
so
okay.
it doesn't really.
So
matter.
the situation is that every time we turned around,
there's
there
some.
was an amendment.
Yeah.
And so now the codification has gone on and on. So
we get a
it's
kid-
up to you.
yeah. So we get it
So-
codified and we will
Exactly.
have the mechanisms in place. If we could get the codification done to get it digitized, and then we'll be able to update it every year and it will be up to date. There won't be, all the numbers at the end every time we do an amendment. It will be updated and adjusted and be digitally searched at the end of each year, updated completely. So, but the codification needs to get done first before we do that. So codification on its way.
So we had a motion, we have a second,
voted.
all we have to do is vote.
We already voted.
You
You
already
voted.
voted.
Good to go.
Yeah.
All right, new business, Scan Tech proposal.
In your packets, and I'm not expecting everybody to have read through this, but in your packets, Joan and I met with the government representative for Scantech about the costs of scanning our files. But I wanted to just put that in your packet so you all have a month to look at it, ask questions, and I'd like to just put it back on the next agenda. So I'm only noting it on the agenda so that everybody notices it.
All right, well, we'll review and we'll put it back on for next month to take a look at. Another new business is Sullivan Building and Design proposal.
Also in your packets is, I had called a few architects. Craig from Sullivan actually called me back and came out to look. In your packet, you'll see his proposal. And he would supply the drawings we would need to go out to bid for an addition over the police conference room. So, if you look at it, he has an hourly rate and he approximates the hours, and probably about $4,000 is what he's estimating, but you know, that could go a little bit more depending on all the changes that people end up making. So,
And he was the only proposal that we,
he's the only one that showed up. I called 3. I called one of them, I don't know how many times, but I can actually have more come in if you'd like as well.
I mean, I think that's a reasonable hourly rate and a reasonable amount of time. And we have budgeted for this upgrade
Yes.
for the building, for doing the drawings and for doing the work this year. So I'd like to get that moving forward. I guess I'd make a motion to approve this proposal to get the investigations done. Anyone have a second for a
I'll
discussion?
second.
All right, discussion? Discussion in public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. On to announcements. Tinicum Earth Day Fair. I believe that Eleanor
I think.
or Cindy, anyone will give an update of how that went?
Cindy, would you like to come up?
So I would just like to thank the support of Eleanor at the fair and Terry. No, I have it here. I can read it. We had 31 volunteers. We had over 100 attendees and probably about, in addition to that, 20 children that attended. Let's see. The Upper Bucks Regional EMS was there. Officer Barrington was there. The joint Nakamixon, Bridgeton, Nakamixon, Tinicum Groundwater Management Committee was there with a booth. We had 14 booths in total of businesses and organizations participating. We had donations from Warings. Jim Grow built a teepee for us that we raffled. Warings gave us rain barrel supplies. We raffled 3 rain barrels. Fresh Start Farm donated a farm tour for 10. And Diane Allison also donated raffle items that were of green household products. Terry, thank you very much for all your support. The EAC had participation from Marty Kide, Riley Murphy, Lauren Zonka, and Sasha Hall. Parks and Rec had also a donation from Terry Johnston and his wife. They donated the rental of the porta pot. And Michael Bernstein was there, Ed Bassford, and Carol Ann Kell to help out. The LPC was represented with John Cole, Mary Pucci, and Dan Ullman. And then we had residents and student volunteers that came along. Neil Carson provided all the sound as well as performing with his son Andrew. We had music for 4 hours. Leslie Carson helped them out. Graham Ford, who is also a Tinicum resident, donated his time and music. A friend of mine came up from Philly. Diane Allison gave a walk on the trail along with Gabby Lent, who is one of the park rangers. Fia Felder gave a compost demonstration. Sue Walsh was there to help out. Larry Brand, Rick Balukas, Wendy Ullman, Samuel and Harriet Meshkoff. And we had student volunteers. William Kapp and his mother helped, along with Brandon Hofstetter and Scott Hofstetter, his father. And there is an article in the Bucks County Herald that is already online with some pictures and talks about the Tinicum Earth Day Fair. So we're hoping, we've got really good response from the vendors. They some of them are saying they'd love to come back, and the attendees had a really good time, and we were lucky to have some good weather. Got a little windy, but it was a good time. So thank you.
That's great. And Cindy, thank you for everything you did to make this happen.
Yeah.
I just wonder, Sue Walsh, Groover Road. I just wondered how it was funded. How did you pay for everything that you had?
There were people donated items. It was really all
donation.
by donation.
Okay. And then where did the money go from the raffles?
It was a free raffle.
Oh,
So
okay.
you could just put your information into a little jar and maybe you would win.
Thank you.
Can I ask Sue, where did the money go for the popcorn? So,
Yeah, I know. Oh.
Yeah.
While we're on announcements, the board wanted to just recognize the work of the Ad Hoc Communications Committee. I see Anita Nolan's here tonight. Thank you so much for putting together the Tinicum Tribune. Everybody has probably received it in your mailboxes. I think it landed maybe a day or two before the last meeting. It was kind of rolling out. Is that right? But it's a beautiful newsletter, and we wanted to recognize by name the members of the communications committee. It took a lot of work to put this together. So Anita Nolan, thank you. And thank you also to members Ray Albergotti, Andre Becker, Chris Becker, and Patricia Lenhart. So,
Thank you.
yes. And we welcome feedback from the community, both those here with us tonight and online and, and broader, because we'd love to, the hope is that this is not the last newsletter that you'll receive from the township, but we'd like to get some feedback as to how it read for everybody. So thanks.
All right. Moving on to regular business then. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 18th meeting?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The treasury report and budget recap, not due this time. They'll be available at the next meeting for this month, correct?
Yeah.
Payroll report, I'll make a motion to approve the period ending April 21st, 2023 in the amount of $34,461.70. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Disbursements. I'll make a motion to approve the disbursements as written.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public Works, announcement of the Conservation District Dirt and Gravel Road.
Good evening, Doug Skelton, Director of Public Works. Just like to announce that Township's been awarded a grant to redo Tinicum Road from Ridge Valley up to Giggle Hill. We had several engineers look over it. I've had from the state of or Penn State University, our engineer. We've worked back and forth and came up with a plan, submitted the application, and we get 50% up front to buy our supplies and such. So as soon as our gravel roads are spring graded, I hope to start work up there. And there's addition of like 4 or 5 drainage pipes, elimination of a couple of ditches. It's quite an intense thing, so it's something excited about.
Doug, what is the total amount of the grant?
I actually wrote it down so I didn't have to guess. Total amount of the grant was sure. grant quote $146,065.40. Total value of the project was $160,590. They usually request us to put up 10%, which we turn around, they, every time we use our trucks, our manpower, that kind of thing, they reimburse for that. So we put 10% back in. So the state right now, or the county has written a check. They give us half up front, but the total grant from them is $146,65.40.
Hey,
Any other
Doug,
questions?
Doug, 1 second. Doug, this is the aggregate that's been used lately, the stuff that lasts longer, less dust, less potholes.
Correct. That would be using the DSA, not just regular modified. It's a driving surface aggregate from Paradise out Lancaster. It gets trucked in, and mostly limestone with a lot of finer mixes, make it a layman's term.
Thank you. You have to share the mic.
Anita Nolan, resident. I just wondered, I assume Tinicum will be closed for some period of time?
Just during the day while we're working there, we'll be closed like a
at
period
night.
of time.
Okay, so, and when is it gonna start?
That I can't, within the next 6 months.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
And we'll sign, have signs up ahead of time.
Okay.
We're starting.
Thanks.
Right, thank you, Doug. And I guess also just as a note for the Public Works, the truck that we had purchased recently has been refurbed by the guys at Public Works, and it's sitting out front there.
Yeah, beautiful job.
Yeah. What year truck is that, Doug?
That's a 2004 Mack Granite. And as we've talked before, new trucks are starting at a minimum of 250,000 now for a truck that size. As of to date, we're under $74,000, and we're done as far as our department and everything. We've added lighting, and the truck that we're going to get rid of, we took a lot of the parts off of it and put onto this because they were newer. I really, to be honest, looking at the new trucks, this is going to last just as long as a new truck. Really proud of the guys. Like I said, they got a lot of hours in there, and a lot different than the ones we've done before because it got a double frame, rails on each side. They had to be taken totally out of the truck, sandblasted, all 4 of them, sandblasted, coated, and then painted and put back together. If you ever had anything apart like that, it's incredible the amount of pieces that come out of there. But it went back together, and it's very nice.
Great job.
Great, yeah,
Really,
great job. Looks
thank you
great.
so much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to zoning. We have a zoning hearing board application of Giordano. They seek relief from multiple requirements for a nano brewery and tasting room, including flood, setback use, lot and parking requirements. I believe that tonight we've got to make a decision, send it to the PC, which I believe is what we want to do, and they will be looking at it on 5/23. It will be back to us on 6/6, and then it goes in front of the zoning hearing board on 6/8. So I guess I will make a motion to send this application to the planning commission for comment.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nothing currently on subdivision and land development, and we are at open public comment session. Anyone have a comment?
Yeah.
Cindy Gasparri. I received about, I think, 4 texts during this meeting requesting that you all keep your mics on because you forget to put them on, and for those that are listening via Zoom. So maybe that would be helpful.
Noted.
And also there's a Mayfest in Point Pleasant this weekend, at Colby's. And then also a business that's kind of around the corner called the Beehive that people might be interested in attending. It's a 2-day celebration in Point Pleasant, supporting some of the local businesses there.
Anybody else?
Catherine Arbach Center Road. I just had a question you were discussing with Doug Bond's excavation. And that you said that the material, the dirt was going to be brought here and other materials were going to be put back in.
Correct.
Is there any provision for him to look at the dirt that's coming out in case there are any artifacts or points of interest, that it doesn't just get removed from the site without any consequence because it's within the historic footprint of the bridge, and maybe ask him at least to keep an eye. over-
Yeah, I mean, I guess we got to ask the crew, obviously, if we see anything that is of interest, to make sure they stop and take a look at.
I don't know if you were going to segregate the pile initially, or you can say, yep, that's the pile over there. If it gets-
Where's it gonna go?
Yeah, you'll put it in its own pile. Yeah, so I guess if,
So in case there's any reason to take a look, whatever.
yeah, I guess not a bad point. I mean, I guess if we have the historical committee one to come and maybe sift through it, Doug will separate it. That's all right. Okay.
Okay, I'm just curious about that.
Any additional comments? Seeing none, make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys. There we go. So we could say we just made a motion to come back into session for the purpose of continuing this meeting until Monday, 5:15 at 5 p.m. for the purpose of potentially hiring a new personnel to the Public Works Department if everything goes as we so planned. But because we don't have a meeting until June 6th, we want to make sure that that person has the ability to come on board, as we are going to be losing an employee shortly, and would like to fill that position prior to next month's meeting, and we have to make that appointment in public session. So if we get an acceptance of our offer, we will be back on Monday, 5:15 at 5 p.m. to hopefully vote on that person's employment.
Well, to be clear, no offer has been made. There's been an interest shown by someone in the position. Doug has to go through the process. He'll bring back a recommendation, but
Yes.
at the present time, no offer has been made. And if there is an offer made to him and he's by Doug and he's interested in the job, then it'll come back on the agenda so that you can take action at a public meeting.
Yep, this is a preemptive continuance for hopefully fulfilling that before the next meeting, so. If it's related to that, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, Jesse Salamoon, Headquarters Road. So the question is, you didn't say why we were denied for that grant for the bridge? And I'm wondering, does it make it harder to get a grant when you don't actually own what you're applying for the grant for? And that if you're hedging the point about taking ownership because you don't have a grant, is this like a catch-22 where it gets harder to get the grant because you don't want to take ownership?
I don't believe that we actually, did we get a response back on the reasoning why? I don't.
Well, I had a verbal response on the reasoning why. I don't have it in writing. But first of all, the grant was federal funds, and if they gave us federal funds, we would have to build a bridge to the federal highway standards, which is the bridge that is 2-lane that PennDOT wants to build. Also, the federal funds have been put aside for PennDOT to build a bridge, so they didn't want to put aside funds for both the same bridge. The third reason, there was three reasons and I'm trying.
20%.
Oh, yes, we would need a 20% match, that we don't have the 20% for 4.5. We couldn't say where that was coming from, but it had nothing to do with ownership of the bridge. We were clear that it would enable us to do something if we took the bridge. I mean, it had nothing to do with us not owning the bridge.
And we also, Jesse, we did see a list of the grant applications that did make it to the next level of consideration, and they were really different types of projects.
Yeah, I was
We-
gonna say from this was a stretch from the start,
we-
but we were trying.
Yes, it was the only, if I'm remembering correctly, the only road/bridge related project that was among, like, none of them that we saw that moved to the next stage were road or bridge related. Ours was, many of the ones that advanced were more community facility type projects. So ours seemed like an outlier based on the ones that advanced.
But going forward, you'll apply for more grants, and does it still make it? Okay, so going forward, you'll apply for more grants. Does it make it easier to still apply for something when you own it, as we would hope to possibly own it?
I think that probably all depends on the grants, depending on what we find. I mean, that's a probably
I mean,
grant by
I think
grant
it's-
application.
I think you handicap yourself by not being willing to take ownership and figure that we'll find money to do it.
Point taken. Make a motion to adjourn? Again, or to continue?
I'll second.
All right,
Oh,
all in favor?
I'll make the motion. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right.
You asked for a motion. I'll
I
make
guess
the
we're-
motion.
All right, I'll second. All in favor to continue till 5:15 at 5 PM. Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned?
Meeting.